Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. The word of the day is windy. It's very windy out here. We're supposed to get a big rainstorm in a few days. It's starting to thaw. I believe that everything is going to be a mess. I guess that's the way it goes with winter. What do you guys want? Yeah, I thought so. How about you? Patty must be on break because Tulip's taking over complaining duties. Oh, and the calves too. Hey, you little monsters, I got some work to do with you this morning. Oh, you're happy about that. You come and see me. Hi, guys. Oh, look at that. Hey, don't eat me. These pigs are a bunch of goofballs. I love them. Being that it's windy today, I'm going to have to find better ways to talk to you all because outside it's just going to be blowing, blowing, blowing. And I have a big can of worms to open today. I wondered whether I should do it, but I thought, you know, in the spirit of transparency, I probably should. All right, you guys. Everybody wants a bite. It's funny sometimes how the cows eat their hay, so there's almost nothing left on this side. But on this side, they got a lot of hay left. Sometimes that's because we get a bale that's got some not so nice stuff in it, but these two bales look fine. They still ate the one on the south more than the north. I don't know. Well, the first thing I got to do with the pigs is fill up their water barrels, so we'll get the hose out here. When I started our small farm, it was an altruistic thing. In other words, I had the greater good in mind. And a lot of people do that. You know, they do it because it's the right thing to do and also because it's kind of their dream. Sometimes the business side isn't thought of all that much, or maybe not as much as it should be. All right, guys, it's time for water. You don't need to run around. I'm not coming in. I can coil up the hose in there and just let it do its thing and just make sure to catch it before it overflows. You guys are thirsty. You got a branch. So here's a little true story to prime the pump, as it were. There's a farmer that lives not too far from us, does a really good job farming, had this idea that permaculture was the way to go, and started out with land that was just destitute. I mean, it was scrub, rock wasn't too far down, it had been neglected for years. Permaculture is a good way to clear that land. Started out with goats and pigs to root up and eat all of the brush. Perfect natural way of clearing the land, right? When the land was cleared, moved on to pastured poultry. Additional feed nutrients coming onto the farm, poultry fertilizing the land, bringing the soil into a healthier condition. Absolutely correct step 2. Step 3, ruminants, beef and sheep on that land that had been converted to pretty decent grassland through the work of the animals earlier, and wound up having kind of a nice farm. Step 4 was putting up high tunnels, greenhouses, and growing produce. What's wrong with this picture? You guys, you're really drinking it up. What's wrong with this picture is that it's a great way to grow animals and infrastructure on your farm. It's a terrible way to build a customer base. This farmer, who I have the utmost respect for, shook their markets every time they made a transition. So they developed a customer base first for the pork and the goat, and then for the poultry, and then for the beef. And every time a transition was made, that customer base was shook. In this case, through all these transitions, the customers really couldn't follow along. The folks who liked chicken and pork were left out in the cold when the beef and lamb production started. And what would have been a great way to do it is to sort of taper the transitions and to keep some of the prior products to satisfy the customer base that only wanted one thing or the other. Too often, small farmers get caught in this altruistic crusade, I guess, to change the face of agriculture, and the business aspects are left in third, fourth place, if sometimes thought of at all. What? The wind blew this tray way back here. Next is the pig's grain. No, the grain. Trust me, I'm going to get to the grain. We're going to be talking about that. Oh, flood. Oh, no. I don't like it when that happens. I have to clean that up. Darn. That's money on the ground. One of the things I love about the culture of small farming is the idealism. I love that pure spirit that people getting into it have. But I've been in business for my whole life, and when I came out of architecture school, I was idealistic and thought architecture should be this unyielding thing. If any of you have seen The Fountainhead, you know the kind of architect I mean. When I got into business and the further up the ladder I moved, I understood that business is about compromise and doing the most amount of good you can in a realistic world, in a pragmatic world. And the rubber meets the road in small farming when these idealists come in and they have to make a living out of it. You got to learn how to compromise and find the best way to farm that satisfies your market, hits the right price points, and does the land good. After all, even if you have the best of intentions and you can't make a living out of it, you're going to make zero impact. So you got to find a way to moderate the two most often. Because unfortunately, farming is not like Field of Dreams. If you grow it, they won't come unless you're good about how you market it and you build your business. People forget about that when they're filled with idealism. Here's where I'm going to hit all the landmines, and here's where the dirty little secrets of small farms get exposed. Small farms rely on grain. Grain is a commodity product. Grain is grown in the industrial system. Why is small farming dependent on grain? And mostly it's dependent on conventional grain, but I'll get to organic in a minute. Small farming is dependent on grain because small farms are maximizing the animal load on their acreage. They don't have the acreage to grow grain. We don't have the acreage to grow grain. Probably to feed the animals that I have here that eat grain, the chickens and the pigs, I would have to grow 20 acres or more of grain. I'd almost have to double the size of our farm. So we have to depend on that industrial commodity system, that faceless system, to provide grain for those types of animals. I like to think that the grain we buy comes local because we get it from a local feed mill and they grind it right there, and a lot of local farmers truck to that feed mill. But it's like the electrical grid. You never know exactly where your power and your grain is coming from, because if that grain mill runs out of a certain product, it may come down in from Canada, it may come from out west. It's all part of that commodity system. An idealistic new small farmer will say, well, I'm going to get off that boat. I'm exiting that commodity system because there's all kinds of things wrong with it, be it government subsidization, the things that are used to grow the grain, Roundup, glyphosate, you know, whatever it is. I want to get off that boat. I want to exit that system. Okay, do that. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to grow heritage breeds. I'm going to grow pigs that just grow on pasture. I'm going to grow heritage breed meat birds that grow with very little grain, and if they need extra calories, I'm going to sprout seeds, or I'm going to go to growing peas or something to get the protein into them. Okay. Now, how are you going to sell your product? Oh, I'm going to take it to the farmer's market, and people are going to love it because it's so clean. Okay. How many people out of that 100% farmer's market clientele do you think are going to pay what you need to charge for that pig that took you years to grow, that chicken that took you 3 times as much labor, plus a whole lot of labor growing that feed to grow? How much are you going to have to charge for that chicken? $10 a pound? What about that pork? $14 a pound? You're catering to a tiny fraction of the people that buy local food. Just remember that with what you're growing. And you're not going to be able to grow nearly as much or make as big an impact on your local community because you're spending so much time focusing on the very fine details of making the cleanest food product possible. That's idealism. That's going to extremes. Remember, I said business exists in compromise. Well, okay, a lot of people maybe wouldn't go that far to those ends. Some people do. What if you say, well, I want to be organic. I don't like those GMOs. I don't know what they're putting in the feed. By the way, I know exactly what they're putting in the feed in the case of our feed. It's nothing like the industrial system. But anyway, I want organic feed. Okay, you're getting feed that's still a commodity. Organic feed is a commodity these days. You have no more assurance of what they're putting into it than you do the feed that I buy, which is, it contains GMOs. Our feed is pretty simple. It contains a protein-producing element, a carbohydrate-producing element, and a trace mineral pack, which consists of things like salt and selenium and calcium and phosphorus, the things that animals need to grow and trace. There's no ground up chicken feathers, ground up dead cows, none of that stuff. It's all from a local mill, it's clean. With organic, the only difference that you're getting is that GMO component, the use of Roundup and genetically engineered corn and soybeans. By the way, I'm bouncing around in here because the wind is howling outside and you'd never be able to hear me. So this is an awful choice for idealists. Idealists want the ideal. It rubber meets the road when you got to make a living off of your ideals. Yes, there are certain people that have exactly the same ideals as you. There are a whole lot of other people that don't. So the idea is you want to meet in the middle, and you're going to have to compromise some of your ideals if you want to be successful. You can argue with that all you want, but that's a fact of life. There are farmers at the market where we sell. So here's us. We're growing livestock. We're growing on pasture as much as we can, but we're still using conventional grains for some of our products. There are farmers at the farmers market, the majority grow like we do. There are farmers who grow livestock using non-GMO grains. There are farmers who grow livestock using organically certified grains. And then there are farmers who grow, like the first example, not the very first example, but the example I had of supplementing protein with something other than soy and growing all that you can on the farm. They come and go. There's one, maybe two, they come, they go, and that's part of the farmer's market. The people who learn how to mediate the requirements of business with what they're growing do well and they last. The people who come with their unyielding ideals, they're not there long. They wind up going out of business, moving on to something else. Next question, am I pulling something over on our customers by seeming to be organic or seeming to be 100% grass-fed with chicken and pigs? No. I'm real plain about that. I've been plain about it in the videos all along. And it's all about, again, where you want to exist on that spectrum. The world's not black and white. There's a spectrum. And the people who are super duper concerned about ultimately clean food are a tiny fraction of the people that are interested in local food. We cater to that larger fraction because I got to make a business doing what I'm doing while doing the most good that I can while doing it. There's another question, I know there is. What do I think about GMOs? I don't particularly think GMOs are a good thing. I think that they have negative impacts on the environment. That's what I feel in my heart of hearts. I think that putting animals back on grass, letting the animals express their nature, growing a healthier meat because of that outdoor and grass exposure is coming part way. I think that if I was a purist, which I am, and I'm an idealist by nature, I probably wouldn't be doing that. But I go to bed comfortable with myself every night because I know that I am doing good. And there's this thing that really bugs me where people say, or people think, somehow that grain farmers out west are doing some kind of evil to the world. They're not. They're just people trying to make a living like we all are, doing it the best way they can with what they think is the best modern science. I can't fault that. In fact, I sympathize a lot and feel like I, as a small farmer, catering to my particular business niche and making a living out of it, I'm basically doing the same thing that they are. They're just trying to make a living. We have more in common than we do different. One of the things I've realized doing YouTube is that whenever you would express an opinion, of course you open yourself to differences of opinion. Today, differences of opinion are most often in the form of personal attacks. It's just the nature of the way things are people dehumanize people that are other than them and attack them. I don't know why. It's one of the things I don't like about what's going on. Sometimes I feel this channel is a plea for reasonableness in moderation in a world that is severely lacking in both of those qualities. It's almost like we're suffering under the tyranny of the unreasonable. That's what I like to call it, where a small fraction of people that are way out there are steering the course of the entire conversation, while I think that there is a whole lot of people out there that are silent that are actually quite reasonable. That majority seems to be growing smaller and smaller by the day, but boy, I sure do hope that some civility and rationality and reasonableness comes back into the discourse more. That's what our farm is. It's about being reasonable and taking care of stray cats like Ezra here, who needs attention once in a while. So I think it's fine to differ with the opinions I've expressed in this. Of course I do. It's natural for everybody to have a difference of opinion. To express it in a rational, constructive way, that's the best way to do it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Right, Ezra? Yeah.